Namaste and welcome back to my channel, everybody. So today I'm going to be having a conversation with Cornelius Mcgrady, who is the first guest on the channel, and I think that deserves a round of applause. Anyways, today we're going to be having a conversation, and if you would like to see more content like this, please like, comment, subscribe, share, and turn on notifications. Anyways, now that we are done with this spiel, let's get started. So obviously I know who you are, but could you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Cornelius Mcgrady III. I'm a 34-year veteran, 3 tours in Southwest Asia. Been married 43 years. I have 2 sons, 6 grandchildren. I am the founder of the Reynoldsburg Youth Human Trafficking Coalition and the newly established Canal Winchester Youth Human Trafficking Coalition. My colleagues and myself, we work to educate them on the parameters of human trafficking, as well as the correlation between domestic violence and human trafficking.
That's some really awesome work. Do you want to elaborate on what the Youth Coalition does for the community and does to inform them?
Yes, absolutely. Once both groups are trained on, we call them the stair steps, teen safe dating, bullying, sexual harassment, sexual assault, and missing children, and then we go into human trafficking. Then we'll have an assembly at the schools where they can educate their peers, as well as we invite individuals from the FBI and the BCI, which is the state Ohio Bureau of Education, and they speak on missing children. And from the assembly, then we'll go to a community event and then expand on that. We'll bring individuals from the State Human Trafficking Task Force come in. They'll do an overview on the goals and objectives that the State Human Trafficking Task Force have accomplished, as well as we bring in BCI again. We bring in knick-knack, which is
I'm going to assume it's not the random knick-knack you find in your junk drawer.
no, it's a federal missing children entity. Then they'll come in, then they'll speak as also. And we try to always bring a speaker in.
So can you speak a little bit about what human trafficking is and what people can do to protect themselves and protect their community, or what the community can do to help people who are being human trafficked?
First of all, you have the types of exploitations. You have the sexual exploitation, forced labor, domestic servitude, and debt bondage. Now, primarily up here, you may run across forced labor. You have an individual that's being forced or coerced for forced labor or sexual activity, where someone else will gain profit on the soul on the back of someone else.
So, not to get off topic too quickly, but I wanted to ask you about your experience on City Council. So I didn't know this before I started to get into research about this video, but you actually were on Reynoldsburg City Council, so could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, how I wound up on City Council was the first African American that was on City Council was Preston Stearns, and he was coming off, and I was coming from Iraq, so I'm trying to get myself together, and he says, what are you thinking about doing for politics? I said, I'm thinking about it, but I want to take a year off. He said, no, we need you to run now. So make a long story short, so I ran. I didn't get on that year, but 2 years later I ran again and got on. It was a very good experience for me because at that time, when I came back from Iraq, from my 3rd and final tour, I started volunteering at the Reynoldsburg High School, and I started mentoring them on teen safe dating, missing children, and then eventually walked right into human trafficking. It was the Reynoldsburg DECA students. I worked with them, and we had our first human trafficking conference there in 2012, I believe. And at that time, we had, again, the folks from the Ohio Attorney General, Missing Children's Clearinghouse, and we had, I can't remember the jurisdiction, but he was the judge. He was one of our spokes. Carter. Yeah, Carter. He was one of our spokespersons as well. And we just mushroomed from there. So we went to every year we had a program. Then we decided to taper it back because the first one we had like 600 people in the Summit Auditorium. So we was really excited about that. But as the years progressed, folks became comfortable, folks became comfortable in their knowledge and not taking upon themselves to refresh their knowledge annually. So the numbers started to diminish, so we started doing it annually. So I'm real excited about this year, 2023, April 15, 2023. We have one planned in Pickerington. So that'll be both the Reynoldsburg Youth Human Trafficking Coalition as well as the Canal Winchester will collaborate on that. And
But yeah, could you talk a little bit about your greatest hits, I guess, on City Council? So what did you help pass? What issues did you sort of help resolve and all that?
I'm glad you asked that question, as my pastor would say, because looking down the road with me being at the school, I said, okay, I need to jumpstart this initiative in the city. First resolution we had was for me to get, my goal was to get city council in tune. I get the city in tune, then I get the mayor in tune. This way the community has bought into it.
Who was the mayor during your time on council, if I may ask?
McLeod.
Okay.
So my first initiatives that we had, they went unanimously supported, which I didn't expect them not to, was teen safe dating, bullying, sexual harassment, sexual assault, missing children, then human trafficking. And then from there, that was the springboard for the community programs in my mind, and which worked. Although now, mind you, some of the individuals, although they approved it, said I was doing it for hyperbole. And we got into an open mic on the during the council meeting. I said, how dare you accuse me of using these children for my gain? I said, don't bring that up again. Yeah, that wasn't too kind.
That's not good.
But the youth, they have done fantastic work, and I just guide them. I don't. This is what we're going to do. I may say, well, what about, although you have this, I said, well, why don't you look at this, and weigh the options. But they're a recognized organization. The Reynoldsburg Youth Human Trafficking Coalition is a recognized organization to the point where I took my name off it because when we first started, it used to be Cornelius Mcgrady III and the Reynoldsburg Youth Human Trafficking Coalition. But the more success with our programs and our community events that we had, I just stepped back and let them run for themselves. In 2006, they were in, at the time, DeWine was the Attorney General. We were in the 2016 human trafficking, the state human trafficking report by the Attorney General.
That's some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, yes.
So obviously, the Reynoldsburg Human Trafficking Youth Coalition does a lot for the community. Could you talk about how somebody who might want to get involved could get involved in the coalition?
Well, absolutely. Matter of fact, in Reynoldsburg, well, let me back up. In Canal Winchester, we just kicked off in, this is December, in October. We had our first training session on the 12th of this month. Then on the 14th of this month, we were recruiting here in Reynoldsburg at both campuses. We're getting ready to kick off with our first training session in Reynoldsburg next Thursday at 3:30 at the Livingston Avenue campus. Registration and participation is free, but I'm excited. I'm really excited.
So that's how you can get involved. Just head over to the Livingston campus, right, on next Thursday.
3:30. We'll be there about 3:15.
3:30, 3:15. And it's really awesome what you do for the community. So in talking about that, what does somebody who is involved in the coalition learn in terms of like skills and all that stuff?
Another good question. Well, first of all, you're going to learn about the signs of human trafficking, the red flags. In addition to that, you're going to get the opportunity to become a speaker. You're going to learn how to not become prey of the various forms of exploitation, as well as educate your peers in school, your siblings and your parents.
Before I start my next question, let me give you a bit of background on it. So obviously I am a former refugee, and I'm a former Bhutanese refugee. So if you didn't know the history of Bhutanese refugees, in the 1980s, the king and the government of Bhutan introduced a law/policy called the One Nation, One People policy. And this policy basically stated that if you wore different clothes than the king, than the official dress of Bhutan, if you spoke a different language than the king, if you followed a different religion than the king, if you followed a different religion, if you spoke, I think I already said this, but anyways, you would be kicked out of the country because you were not a Bhutanese, you were not Bhutanese enough, pretty much. So that forced 1/6 of Bhutan's population to basically flee the country, flee persecution. So the government was basically taking the women, they were raiding the villages. The men were beaten, put into jails and stuff. The women were raped. They had their hair cut off, which is significant because within the Hindu Dharma, keeping your hair long is like a sign of, I don't know what it's a sign of, but it's important. And getting your hair cut off is like one of the worst things that can happen to you. If it happens forcefully, obviously. If you choose to do it of your own will, you did it of your own will. Obviously, I'm very used to going to the hair salon. But anyways, so that was a terrible thing that happened. And then these Bhutanese refugees went to refugee camps in Nepal, and they stayed there for 18 years, or over 18 years. There are people who are still in camps to this day. And so, because of that, I really would like to know if there's like a correlation to being like a former refugee, being like an immigrant, a migrant, and getting like human trafficked, because I know there are communities that are like more at risk than others. So I was wondering if like those communities, those populations are more at risk.
I don't have any cold hard facts on that, but I think I read something about that during COVID.
So, in my time in Reynoldsburg, in the past couple of days, I've heard some whispers about about you, and those whispers basically said that you were planning a run for school board in Canal Winchester. So, could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're considering that run for school board. Yes, I'm anticipating your next question, so let me just jump in here. The reason why I'm looking to run is because I've been mentoring in Reynoldsburg for 14 years, just this past school cycle, beginning of the school cycle. On human trafficking, there's a need for this continued education within our school to safeguard our youth. Education, law enforcement first, education second, is the only way we're going to defeat this criminal industry, by educating our youth, and our youth educating our peers, and our youth educating our communities. So I am very much considering a run for Canal School Board to advance the Canal Winchester Youth Human Trafficking Coalition, to educate the schools there, in which would and then that's for high schools, then the drive towards an elementary slide deck for our youth. It seems like everybody has the deck for the high school, but no one has for the middle schools, and that's going to be the challenge for me. So I'm challenging myself to further educate our youth, and not just in Reynoldsburg Canal, but I've even asked to consider in the Columbus School District. So with that being said, my prayer is that I be given one and possibly two schools in the Columbus School District as well.
And I think you should definitely run. We need more people who are in politics and who are in local government who care about, obviously people in local government care, but who truly know what they are doing and what they want. Obviously you have the youth coalitions, and that's amazing work that you're doing.
And the sad part about it, you touched on something, the sad part about it is you still have entities out here that don't believe it exists within their communities.
Yeah.
That's the sad part about it.
Yeah, when I was reading articles and stuff for the research for the Frederick Douglass video that I did, there was a lot of, I read a lot of interviews, and it was a lot of people being like, I didn't know this could happen to me. I always thought it would happen to, my neighbor Brenda.
Mm-hmm. Or a third world country.
Yeah, or in a third world country. I didn't know it could happen in America. I think I read somewhere that Columbus had one of the highest rates of human trafficking of all cities.
I keep hearing that, but I have not, and I've researched that, I have not put my hand on that. There's a lot of chit chat on it, but let me say Toledo's the fourth largest in terms of calls to the cities out of all the cities in the nation on calls to the human trafficking hotline. In addition to Ohio will be the fifth state in the nation on human trafficking.
Yeah, so human trafficking doesn't happen, it doesn't just happen in third world countries. It can be happening in your own neighborhoods, in your schools, in your grocery store.
Oh, yes. Matter of fact, when I started this, it was right after I came back from Iraq, and I always, when I found out about it, what was going on in the United States, in that at that time Toledo was in the top 10. Excuse me. No, Toledo still is 5. Ohio was in the top 10. I was surprised because here, many times I've gone through Toledo, didn't see anything.
All of us have.
Right. And not knowing what I was looking for, just frolicking along, going up to Toledo with my son playing football up there. He was at Bowling Green. And keeping my head on a swivel 3 times that I've been in Southwest Asia, and then I come back, I was mystified. I was shocked to learn what was going on in Ohio and what was going in our backyard just up the street about 175 miles from here, 135 miles from here. Yeah.
So I'm going to assume you're a giant football fan. So I just aligned myself a couple of days ago with not the Dallas Cowboys, the other one.
Thank you.
Not the other one. I think it's the Eagle something. Anyways, so what is your to die for football team?
There's nothing quite so striking as a Minnesota Viking.
So I think as this is coming to a close, I need to ask a question that is very prevalent in pop culture right now. Okay? So prepare yourself. Steel yourself.
My opinion, you're asking me my opinion?
Yes.
Okay.
Have you watched Wednesday?
Fantastic movie.
The show on Netflix.
Yes.
Oh my god, okay. So are you Team Tyler or Team Xavier?
Team Wednesday.
The only correct team.